Never-ending mysterious phenomena. Looking back, I think it all started in the third year of junior high school. Maybe it really started much earlier, but I just didn't realize it. This is a long story, but maybe there is someone out there who knows a solution, so please listen. When I was in the third year of junior high school, my class decided to have an all-you-can-eat party at a famous chain restaurant. The restaurant was a little far from the station, but there was a bus service, so we all gathered at the station and took the bus. The launch itself was uneventful and friendly, and we broke up around 9 p.m. When I was waiting for the bus to go home, I noticed something. I had no money for the bus. I had no choice but to walk home. Suzuki and Matsumoto also said they would walk home with me, so the three of us walked home. We talked about trivial things on the way home. As I recall, we were talking about who likes who and how to play video games. We talked for a long time, but at a certain moment, all three of us stopped talking at the same time. I should mention in advance that I have no psychic senses, and I am also a denier of bizarre phenomena. But the presence I felt at that moment was something that even I thought was bad, and I think the other two were thinking the same thing. As I continued walking in silence, I found out what was giving off that strange atmosphere. There was a woman dressed in white sitting on a bench. I knew immediately that the woman was not of this world. She looked to be in her 20s, but her eyes were black and hollow. Furthermore, the bench there was empty, and the only light was from a vending machine next to it. The woman was sitting on a bench without shoes, looking at us the whole time. We couldn't move. After about a minute, the woman walked toward us. "Run!" Suzuki shouted. At that moment, our bodies started to move and we ran with a wordless scream. We ran to the station without stopping once and were relieved to see lights and many people. Then we decided to split up at the station. My house is close to the station, so I was fine, but Suzuki and Matsumoto looked a little worried because they are far away and also their houses are in opposite directions. However, we could not stay at the station forever, so after about 5 minutes we broke up and everyone headed home. When I got home, I took a bath and was taking a breather when I received a phone call from Matsumoto. When I answered, Matsumoto said she was there. I thought I had been involved from the beginning. I thought he was playing a joke from the beginning, but I soon realized that he was not lying, because of the urgency in his voice. Then Matsumoto told me what was going on with a mixture of exclamations. In summary, the woman was in front of a vending machine in front of a rice field on the way back to Matsumoto's house. There were no cars or bicycles near the woman, and it was impossible for her to get there on foot from that location, so Matsumoto hurried home. He called me after he arrived home. I calmed down the distraught Matsumoto on the other end of the phone, told him that we would think about how to deal with the situation at school tomorrow, and ended the call. When I went to school the next day, somehow they all knew what had happened yesterday and talked to me. I was surprised at how they knew about it, and in the classroom, Suzuki was telling everyone about it. I pulled Suzuki, who talked like a hero, into the hallway and told him about yesterday's phone call from Matsumoto. I told him about the phone call from Matsumoto yesterday, and he said, "Let's just talk about it when Matsumoto gets here." But Matsumoto did not show up that day. Suzuki and I got worried and decided to go to Matsumoto's house. I pressed the house chime but no one answered. No matter how many times we pressed the doorbell, no one answered, and there was no sign of anyone at home. We were worried, but we thought they would come tomorrow, so we went home that day. But Matsumoto did not come the next day. The next day, and the day after that, and the day after that, and a month later, the teacher told me that she had changed schools. My mother was good friends with Matsumoto's mother, so she told me what had happened. She told me that Matsumoto had been scared of something since the morning of the day after the launch and had a mental breakdown. From the next day, strange phenomena started happening to us. It became common for us to suddenly feel as if something was holding us down while we were sleeping, or to hear something bumping into us in our ears. In the dream I was in my room, and soon after I woke up to a green light coming in through the window of my room, and it covered the room. I immediately felt as if someone was on top of me and grabbed me by the wrist, and I couldn't move. This continued for about an hour, and then suddenly I lost the feeling of being gripped. I got scared and went to bed that night under my mother's covers. The next day at school, I told Suzuki about it, and he had the exact same experience. It continued for about 2 months, and then one day it suddenly disappeared. We were anxious at first, thinking it would come back, but since we were preparing for exams, we gradually forgot about it. Then we became high school students. I went to a different school from Suzuki. There I met a new friend, Harada, and we went shopping together. I was so happy to be able to go shopping with my new friend that I immediately said yes, and we went out together the next day. The next day we went out together. The store was downstairs using the elevator, but that day was strange. The elevator definitely felt like it was going down, but it never seemed to stop. After about 5 minutes, the door opened. The place we arrived was where we got on. Harada said, "Why didn't you go downstairs?" But when I looked closer, I saw that his eyes were not smiling. I didn't feel like shopping that day, so I went home. That night, I began to be troubled by the strange phenomenon again. However, there was one difference from before. The woman was in the corner of my room that I saw in my dream. I immediately contacted Suzuki, but he had moved and I could not find his phone number. This continued for a month and then disappeared again. Then time passed without incident, and in the summer of my senior year of high school, Harada and I decided to go to the mountains to collect beetles. My school is in the mountains, so we knew where to find the beetles and the best time to go, so we met at the base of the mountain at 10 p.m. On the way to the beetle spot, an old man came out of the unpaved road in the mountain. I thought he might be a wild vegetable picker, and was about to continue walking when he started shaking slightly in front of a cliff-like area of the mountain. When we were startled, the old man disappeared. Harada and I hurried to look down to see if he had fallen down the cliff, but there was no one there. I wanted to go home, but Harada insisted. "We've come this far, let's at least catch one and go home." So I decided to get a beetle. We decided to go to the observation deck, but then I noticed something strange. The road to the observatory was gone. We got scared and decided to run down the road through the shrine where we could get down the mountain in the shortest time. When we arrived at the shrine, I had a bad premonition. And it turned out to be right. There she was, on top of the money box at the shrine. I was so frightened that I became incontinent on the way to the shrine. I was that scared. At the bottom of the mountain, Harada and I checked to make sure no one was coming and took a rest. Then I felt a pain in my arm. I looked and saw that I had caught it on a branch or something, and it was injured pretty deeply. I guess I was so scared when I was running that even the pain was out of my thoughts. Then that night I had another bizarre phenomenon. In the dream, the woman in the room was moving a little toward me from the corner of the room. I began to think that she might come toward me and kill me in the end. The days passed by and I got a job in the construction industry in my hometown. The strange phenomenon has not happened since that day, but I was not worried about when it might happen. Then one day, when I was working late alone at work, I heard someone's footsteps. I was scared, but I turned around fearfully. But there was no one there. I thought I was imagining it and got to work, but about 30 minutes later, I heard the sound again. I turned around to see if it was my imagination, but no one was there. With relief, I turned my eyes to the window and saw the woman. I was surprised. I was on the 3rd floor, so there was no way I could see her face through the window. Then she looked at me with the same hollow eyes as that day and said, "3 more years." She said in a voice that sounded like she was crawling up from hell. I immediately stopped working overtime, went home, and later submitted my resignation, and am now at home receiving psychiatric counseling. I may die when the day comes that the woman said. I know that from the outside I will die in a way that will be treated as a stroke or possibly a suicide, but I want you to know this. I want you to know that I am really being killed by that woman. And next year, it will be 3 years after that woman said. I wonder what will happen to me. This concludes this story. Thanks for listening to the end.